Day 76. Deuteronomy 30-31. When all these things come upon you, the blessings and curses I have set before you, and you call them to mind in all the nations to which the Lord your God has banished you. And when you and your children return to the Lord your God and obey his voice with all your heart and all your soul according to everything I am giving you today, then he will restore you from captivity and have compassion on you and gather you from all the nations to which the Lord your God has scattered you. Even if you have been banished to the farthest horizon, he will gather you and return you from there. And the Lord your God will bring you into the land your fathers possessed, and you will take possession of it. He will cause you to prosper and multiply more than your fathers. The Lord your God will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants, and you will love him with all your heart and with all your soul, so that you may live. Then the Lord your God will put all these curses upon your enemies who hate you and persecute you. And you will again obey the voice of the Lord and follow all his commandments I am giving you today. So the Lord your God will make you abound in all the work of your hands and in the fruit of your womb, the offspring of your livestock, and the produce of your land. Indeed, the Lord will again delight in your goodness, as he delighted in that of your fathers, if you obey the Lord your God by keeping his commandments and statutes that are written in this book of the law, and if you turn to him with all your heart and with all your soul. For this commandment I give you today is not too difficult for you or beyond your reach. It is not in heaven, that you should need to ask, who will ascend into heaven to get it for us and proclaim it, that we may obey it? And it is not beyond the sea, that you should need to ask, who will cross the sea to get it for us and proclaim it, that we may obey it? But the word is very near you, it is in your mouth and in your heart, so that you may obey it. See, I have set before you today life and goodness, as well as death and disaster. For I am commanding you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments, statutes, and ordinances, so that you may live and increase, and the Lord your God may bless you in the land that you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away and you do not listen, but are drawn away to bow down to other gods and worship them, I declare to you today that you will surely perish, you shall not prolong your days in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, so that you and your descendants may live, and that you may love the Lord your God, obey him, and hold fast to him. For he is your life, and he will prolong your life in the land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When Moses had finished speaking these words to all Israel, he said to them, I am now 120 years old, I am no longer able to come and go. And the Lord has said to me, you shall not cross the Jordan. The Lord your God himself will cross over ahead of you. He will destroy these nations before you, and you will dispossess them. Joshua will cross ahead of you, as the Lord has said. And the Lord will do to them as he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, when he destroyed them along with their land. The Lord will deliver them over to you, and you must do to them exactly as I have commanded you. Be strong and courageous, do not be afraid or terrified of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you, he will never leave you nor forsake you. Then Moses called for Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel, Be strong and courageous. For you will go with this people into the land that the Lord swore to their fathers to give them, and you shall give it to them as an inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you, he will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid or discouraged. So Moses wrote down this law and gave it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. Then Moses commanded them, at the end of every 7 years, at the appointed time in the year of remission of debt, during the Feast of Tabernacles, when all Israel comes before the Lord your God at the place he will choose, you are to read this law in the hearing of all Israel. Assemble the people, men, women, children, and the foreigners within your gates, so that they may listen and learn to fear the Lord your God and to follow carefully all the words of this law. Then their children who do not know the law will listen and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as you live in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. Then the Lord said to Moses, Behold, the time of your death is near. Call Joshua and present yourselves at the tent of meeting, so that I may commission him. So Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves at the tent of meeting. Then the Lord appeared at the tent in a pillar of cloud, and the cloud stood over the entrance to the tent. And the Lord said to Moses, You will soon rest with your fathers, and these people will rise up and prostitute themselves with the foreign gods of the land they are entering. They will forsake me and break the covenant I have made with them. On that day my anger will burn against them, and I will abandon them and hide my face from them, so that they will be consumed, and many troubles and afflictions will befall them. On that day they will say, have not these disasters come upon us because our God is no longer with us? And on that day I will surely hide my face because of all the evil they have done by turning to other gods. Now therefore, write down for yourselves the song and teach it to the Israelites, have them recite it, so that it may be a witness for me against them. When I have brought them into the land that I swore to give their fathers, a land flowing with milk and honey, they will eat their fill and prosper. Then they will turn to other gods and worship them, and they will reject me and break my covenant. And when many troubles and afflictions have come upon them, this song will testify against them, because it will not be forgotten from the lips of their descendants. For I know their inclination, even before I bring them into the land that I swore to give them. So that very day Moses wrote down this song and taught it to the Israelites. Then the Lord commissioned Joshua son of Nun and said, Be strong and courageous, for you will bring the Israelites into the land that I swore to give them, and I will be with you. When Moses had finished writing in a book the words of this law from beginning to end, he gave this command to the Levites who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, Take this book of the law and place it beside the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, so that it may remain there as a witness against you. For I know how rebellious and stiff-necked you are. If you are already rebelling against the Lord while I am still alive, how much more will you rebel after my death? Assemble before me all the elders of your tribes and all your officers so that I may speak these words in their hearing and call heaven and earth to witness against them. For I know that after my death you will become utterly corrupt and turn from the path I have commanded you. And in the days to come, disaster will befall you because you will do evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger by the work of your hands. Then Moses recited aloud to the whole assembly of Israel the words of the song from beginning to end. Mark 15 verses 1 to 25. Early in the morning, the chief priests, elders, scribes, and the whole Sanhedrin devised a plan. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. So Pilate questioned him, Are you the king of the Jews? You have said so, Jesus replied. And the chief priests began to accuse him of many things. Then Pilate questioned him again, Have you no answer? Look how many charges they are bringing against you. But to Pilate's amazement, Jesus made no further reply. Now it was Pilate's custom at the feast to release to the people a prisoner of their choosing. And a man named Barabbas was imprisoned with the rebels who had committed murder during the insurrection. So the crowd went up and began asking Pilate to keep his custom. Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews? Pilate asked. For he knew it was out of envy that the chief priests had handed Jesus over. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have him release Barabbas to them instead. So Pilate asked them again, What then do you want me to do with the one you call the king of the Jews? And they shouted back, Crucify him. Why? Asked Pilate. What evil has he done? But they shouted all the louder, Crucify him. And wishing to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. But he had Jesus flogged, and handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers led Jesus away into the palace, that is, the praetorium, and called the whole company together. They dressed him in a purple robe, twisted together a crown of thorns, and set it on his head. And they began to salute him, Hail, King of the Jews! They kept striking his head with a staff and spitting on him. And they knelt down and bowed before him. After they had mocked him, they removed the purple robe and put his own clothes back on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. Now Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way in from the country, and the soldiers forced him to carry the cross of Jesus. They brought Jesus to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him. They also divided his garments by casting lots to decide what each of them would take. It was the third hour when they crucified him.